Committee on Wednesday, November 12th, 9 o'clock here in the boardroom. Like to welcome everybody that's here, whether it's staff, our committee, or public. If you would, rise with me and pledge allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, a roll call, see if we have a quorum.
Of course. Chesterfield County, Mr. Carroll.
That'd be
Henrico County, Mr. Nelson. Goochland County, Mr. Spoonhour.
here.
New Kent County, Mr. Moyer.
Here.
City of Richmond, Maravula.
Here.
Commonwealth Transportation Board, Mr. Davis.
Here.
And we do have a quorum.
Thank you very much. I have not gotten any requests for participation remotely, but I guess we can go right past that. The next is consideration of amendments to the meeting agenda. Does anybody have any? Situation? You do? Yes, sir. Okay, no. Okay, don't shake your head. Next is everybody's gotten the packet with the minutes, and I'll listen to anybody that's has any questions, problems, differences, or wants to approve.
When I get a packet, I'll let you know.
Oh, that's true, yeah.
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve the CVTA Finance Committee minutes as presented.
Second. There's a motion, there's a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No, aye.
Yeah. They're dependent on us.
No speech that way.
Now it's time for an open public comment period. If we do have anybody that is present, not anybody that's online. If not, we'll move on to the my report, which is pretty much whatever's we're gonna talk about today. The only other thing is I wanted to mention that just in thinking that if there are master's programs or high level BS programs that could use someplace to put an intern. I think it'd be an interesting area for somebody to intern for the CVTA. That, you know, whether it's a paid, you know, all those things we can talk about, you know, some other time. But it might be somebody be able to get a head start with, you know, looking at transportation as being their future, because we know it's one area that's not going to go away. You know, we're always going to have this situation but to have what I know in the past of what's been done at this level, at this authority, be good to be able to share that with the world through education and that. So something to think about. You know, that's something I thought about. I think that is maybe more appropriate than, you know, a scholarship or something like that. I think an intern will give some real working, you know, and real live stuff that we'll be able to do for a person in that area. Mayor, do you have anything as vice chair?
No.
Okay,
Thanks.
very good.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, okay.
I mean, just actually, I have to tell you, I think that's a fantastic idea. And wish I thought of it.
I'll let you.
But what I would say is, many of our jurisdictions already have intern programs. And I think some of them are paid intern programs. And so perhaps what we could look at is those jurisdictions that already have an intern program and put maybe a rotation in where one of the interns from each jurisdiction has an opportunity to spend time at the CVTA as part of their internship. That way it wouldn't cost the CVTA dollars from our budget for transportation, but would still allow for someone to get that same experience. Just my thought on that, but I think it's something that I think, Mr. Chair, you should bring to the fold. CVTA.
Okay, we'll talk about that.
I think it's a great idea. Kudos.
Very good. Thank you. Next is CVTA activities report. Mr. Parsons.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm actually gonna let Ms. Shepherd take over.
Thank
and
you.
I'll check in.
Thank you. Good morning. I am on page 11 of the packet, but feel free to follow along on the screen. This latest tax collections and distribution schedule, I realize that's a little bit small. As of September 30th reflects the tax activity for June 2025. We've added some additional color to tie this schedule back to the Sankey diagram, which we'll see in just a moment. So orange represents the tax revenues coming in. The green represents the distributions going back out to the localities. Blue and purple represent distributions to GRTC and the regional fund, and then pink is operating. So this is another effort to support committee members' clear understanding of all the numbers on this schedule. So this is that Sankey diagram. Those are those tax revenues in orange. Sales and use tax at 15.4 million make up 77%. Total revenues coming into CVTA for the month of June. Local fuels tax of 4.7 million makes up 23% for a total of 20.1 million in revenues for this period. Of that 20.1 million collected, per the distribution ratio by the authority, 50% of that, or 9.7 million, is going back to the localities. 35% or 6.8 million, that's that blue line, has been distributed to the regional fund. And then 15%, or that 2.9, is going to GRTC. The operating fund in pink, we'll talk about that in just a moment on our next slide. I'm on PDF page 13, and these are the detailed expenses year-to-date September 30th. So that's July through September 30th, that Q1 fiscal year 26. So 150,000 has been spent on operations year-to-date. Those expenses are broken out here by personnel, professional services, technology, and administration, and then one additional level of detail. That same data, flipping to the next slide, is just everything you just saw in Excel format. Expenses are tracking appropriately at this point in the fiscal year. Since the budget was approved, we have added a projections column, and the variances reflected are based on budget versus projections for the year. There are no material changes to projections for operations at this time. There are two classification adjustments around recording of the new financial management system, which I'll provide an update on that in just a moment. And these changes relate to Chesterfield's capitalization threshold. So as a reminder, our two fiscal agents, Chesterfield and Richmond, that $25,000 contribution amount, thank you again, CVTA, for the new financial management system is below Chesterfield's $50,000 capitalization threshold. So we're just moving that from down below up to technology expense, and that also eliminates any depreciation expense for that new system. So more of an FYI. Any questions on current operating expenses before the financial management system update? Okay. Implementation is going really well. This is a huge, huge lift. We are, alongside CVTA, investing a lot of time and resources into this initiative. The system is called JMIS. They've been around for about 30 years. Their clients are primarily government contractors, so they're really familiar with the compliance requirements that agencies like ours need. System provides an incredible amount of integration. So the system is replacing 3 of Planner VA's current systems: QuickBooks Accounting, Paychex Payroll, and Bamboo HR, as well as adding true grants management capabilities. CVTA's largest expense is people, and that includes Planner VA labor. So our previous systems, the 3 I mentioned, were just not built to handle those complexities. JMIS includes integrated timekeeping. So when I enter my hours for preparing for a CVTA meeting, Chet will be able to see, Mr. Parsons will be able to see in real time how those hours flow through the system and affect his operating budget for the year. I'll be able to pivot and report as needed. Any questions on the financial management system before I provide a brief update on Planner VA's audit? Okay. The Planner VA presents their audit to the Planner VA Commission tomorrow. We met with our finance committee last week. There were a few changes to Planner VA's audit as relating to CVTA. I just wanted to share with this group as an FYI. So a quick refresher on the relationship between our two organizations. So this committee knows Planner VA provides back office services to CVTA, the entity. Staff exclusively supporting CVTA, so Mr. Parsons and Ms. Samwea are actually Planner VA employees. They are processed through Planner VA payroll. They enjoy the benefits sponsored by Planner VA. The operating costs associated with those staff members are typically invoiced monthly to CVTA through Chesterfield as one of those two fiscal agents. Prior to the 2025 audit, CVTA was defined in Planner VA's audited financials as a fiduciary fund. And a primary requirement for fiduciary status is control over the assets, and Planner VA has no control over CVTA's assets. We don't have access to those large investment accounts. So for the 2025 audit, this is a change where CVTA is no longer reflected as a fiduciary fund. CVTA is no longer reflected with financial statements in Planner VA's audit. Any questions on that? Please.
Mr. Chair, I have a couple updates. Before I get to the investment report, can you go back
Yeah.
to the tax collections slide?
Yes.
Yes. So in your packet, hopefully it's legible. There is a little bit of additional information that is now at the bottom of the screen in your two boxes. And this was done to hopefully provide a little bit of additional detail on the interest income that CVTA has collected over the years. We have known in previous months, we have a line item for interest income. As you can see in FY26, it essentially starts over and shows, 1.1 million for the June tax activity. What we really wanted to do was also have a snapshot of lifetime interest income, because we are now starting to take actions related to the interest income over time. So this is more of an accounting of the activity that the interest income has seen over the past 5 years. We break it down. The interest income was used to establish the working capital reserve. You can see 18 million there in that, we'll say the box at the bottom right under the table. We also have allocations of interest income of 5.5 million and regional projects of 315 million, as well as available interest income that has not been allocated yet of 13.1 million. That's the number that we really want to track. That is, I don't know if it's the correct word, Ms. Shepherd, but available or flexible at this point, that is not allocated or committed to some other source. The bottom left table is an additional way to view the interest income and how that has been committed over time. And the dates that those actions were taken for the committed funds. So again, that 5.85 million was put into the working capital reserve on September 27th. And then the additional 12.9, the action was taken on September 27th to over time build up that working capital reserve to the 18 million that is required. And then additionally on September 27th, the authority took action to set aside 1.5 million from interest income for fall and trail wayfinding, fabrication and installation. And then an additional 4 million on June 6th was committed out of the interest income to fully fund design build number 2 on the fall and trail. So that is a breakdown of interest income, and these two tables will be updated each month to show where we stand in terms of commitments and available funds in the interest income. We are still working on some guidance on what those triggers might be. That's been a question that the Finance Committee has raised in the past on when to capitalize and utilize the available interest income for some other source, whether that is additional project funding or other needs. So again, just additional information in the monthly tax collections and distributions form.
So then, go ahead.
Chad, can you just remind me what process we went through for the allocation of that 5.5 for the fall intro? Like, how do we get to deciding to do that?
Yes, sir. That's a great question. The original discussion, I don't remember the month. It may have been August of 24. We recognized 11.6 million in interest income. And I believe it started at the finance committee to say, we don't want that to just be sitting there. We want to utilize it for something. So at the time, the direction was we need to establish the working capital reserve. That was the first slice of that 11.6. And then I believe it was Mr. Moyer said we also want to, I believe we want to try and utilize some of the interest income for project needs. So we started working with TAC over the next few months to identify potential uses in terms of project needs that were in place at the time. The wayfinding installation was up at the top because that was not funded at that point and was not part of the commitments that CVTA had made for localities to fabricate and install the signage. So that was the first slice, was that 1.5 million. And then there was additional funding available, that 4 million, as well as an additional 1.1, I believe. That was the remainder that VDOT in June came to us with, we'll call it an emergency request, that there was a shortfall in bids that came in for design build 2. So the authority took action at that point to make that whole so that design build 2 could get started and utilize current rates and not have to go back out and experience inflation and everything else. So again, we don't have a prescribed means of, here's when we take action on interest income and utilize it for something. But we're working to get that back to the finance committee as soon as possible.
Great, thanks.
So in part 3 later on, we'll talk
Yes.
about future. But if I'm correct, it's gonna be about 1.1 million every month in interest. Is gonna be added because the amount of funds we have there and the interest rate, but as we've done better, not interest rate wise, but we're doing better in interest because we have more money there. And our idea of making sure we can put it in the process, in the proper things for the timing of that, we can make that kind of money. Because that's we didn't have to tax anybody on that to get that. So that's good fun. So how about the
With that, going ahead to the investment report, great timing, Mr. Chair. The investment report is on the last page of the handout and is captured through September of 25. The 3 bullets on the right-hand side are what I'll focus on. And these were provided, this information was provided by Chesterfield County as our fiscal agent. The Fed has continued to lower rates. That's the increase in interest earnings compared to the prior year is due to the investment balances in the portfolio, not the interest rates. So that is something to note. Portfolio is outperforming all of the yield benchmarks, but year over year is lagging because all of our previous CDs that we had funds invested in have matured. And the market is not sustainable right now to continue that investment methodology. So right now, all of our investments are in pooled funds. And you can see the yield benchmarking. The current yield right now is just under 4.5%. So that's a whole percentage point lower than we have experienced in the past. So we will continue to monitor that. But at this point, pooled funds seems to be our best avenue for reinvestment. And I'm sure, all of you are experiencing the same things at the local level. We will continue to work with Chesterfield County and I'm also, I think I mentioned this in the past, working with PFM to develop a tool that we can utilize to get snapshot returns on any available funds at any point in time that can be used to reinvest. Once those opportunities arise, we will have a better way of knowing, exactly what amount of funds we're talking about that can be invested in and continue to raise those income levels.
Thank you, Ms. Parsons, and,
I have one other item.
okay. Go for it.
This was just an information item for Finance Committee. In talking with Mr. Moyer and Mr. Nelson as chair of the authority. We've taken the administrative action of rather than waiting for reimbursement requests from Planner VA for operating expenses on a temporary basis for November and December. We are advancing those funds to Planner VA based on past results, past actual items and projections for expenses over the next 2 months through the end of the calendar year, just to make sure that we are all whole and will not have to potentially experience any negative impacts of hopefully what is soon to be a non-shutdown, but federal funds and impacts that Planner VA is experiencing. You want to add anything additional?
You captured it. I mean,
Okay.
we are, Planner VA as an entity has exposure right now, given some of the impacts of the federal shutdown. Some of our grants, the portals for reimbursement are literally closed. They're not available for reimbursements. Work that Planner VA has already done. And so we are appreciative of our partner in CVTA working with us to just provide that additional cushion for planned CVTA expenses.
And we did check thoroughly our bylaws and financial policies do not have any restrictions or issues with taking this action. Obviously, it's a temporary thing.
Yes.
And we'll refer to that as.
Very good. So I want to thank Chesterfield and the fiduciary powers over there are doing tremendous for us. That's for sure. Also, I am sure all jurisdictions are feeling kind of situation with the shutdown. New Kent, our exposure is limited to basically social services. And as we're doing here, we're guiding monies towards that for reimbursement in that and trying to get the faith-based community involved in other type of social services too. So I know we do not have much of an exposure with the CVTA federal, but I know Martha, Ms. Sickle has mentioned many times that they are not fully, but pretty close to fully funded by Fed. So Mr. Parsons, could you give us the TAC activities report?
Yes, sir. Absolutely. We had a full agenda on Monday with the TAC, and just to briefly review, most of the items were information and kind of setting us up for the next few months. We did take action, or the TAC took action to recommend approval of the project agreement that is actually on your agenda this morning as the next action item. So I'll review that in just a second. TAC did take additional action on another agenda item for this morning, which is B2, and I'll review that in a few minutes as well. But the TAC had additional discussion on Monday regarding criteria for, I guess, continued clarification and realization of what a regional project is. So our 35% through the first 3 rounds of funding have gone to, 64 different types of projects across the region. And we do have a adopted that has been thoroughly vetted framework for what projects are eligible for regional funds and how those funds are distributed. I think we want to make sure, staff wants to make sure that TAC is continuing to refine those needs as the types of projects evolve across the region. And it's something that we want to do from time to time to take a look again at what the framework says in terms of what types of projects qualify for regional funding And we want to make sure that as, smart scale evolves, as the federal outlook evolves, that we are able to address the big funding issues that can't be touched through other traditional conventional funding methods. And that's something, that's a fit that CVTA has that has really over its lifetime been meeting a need. So we want to make sure that those types of funding availabilities are continuing to be present for localities to capitalize on. So we're kickstarting that discussion again at the TAC, and that's going to be an extended discussion over multiple meetings. Provided a brief update on Monday in terms of the round 4 project evaluations. We are on schedule for early spring to be bringing that to full review, public hearing, and approval by the authority. But all the projects that have been received are, with the exception of maybe 1 or 2, are evaluated for both cost estimate review as well as travel demand modeling and all of the criteria that we do to rank and prioritize. So those benefit scores are going to be distributed back to localities within the week, and we are gonna give everyone a few weeks to digest and make sure there's no additional questions, and then we'll introduce the cost estimates to those as well, and be able to prepare everyone, including the public, for the slate of projects that are up for review and approval. And then finally, we reviewed the spend down plans. This is something that we do biannually, where every locality that has already received regional funds prepares projections on the actual timing for when those funds are expected to be committed, so that we can again feed that back into what I was talking about earlier, our knowledge at any point in time of what funds are available that are not committed or necessary for existing projects that need to move forward. So knowing available funds at the regional level is something that we're keeping a close eye on.
Thank you. Any questions about PAC or Mr. Parsons? No, then we'll move on to other business, and the first is the Town of Ashland project agreement for wayfinding, and I'll give it to Mr. Parsons.
Thank you. This is should be a quick item. This is a continuation of actions that have been begun in other localities through that interest income commitment that we discussed earlier. There's a pool of funds that have been made available for every locality that is developing a part of the Fall Line Trail. Ashland is coming forward now with a request to create a project agreement for their funds to fabricate and install the signage on the Ashland portion of the trail. This was already, these project agreements have already been advanced for Henrico County and Hanover County. So utilizing the same methodology, the request is here by the Town of Ashland in the amount of $14,843. So the requested action today is to recommend full authority approval of the project agreement as presented.
Very good, Mr. Parsons. To make some relevancy to this and how important the wayfinding is, there is a gentleman that's done over 500 miles on this small strip of the Fall Line Trail. So I can just imagine how much use this could be, and hopefully he's going back and forth the right way, and maybe the signage will help him. But this is, I know the Hanover people I've talked to are just thrilled about what's going on up there, and so I'll leave it at that and ask for a motion.
Take a motion that we recommended the full authority approval.
Second, thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Yeah, Mr.
Well, 2 people. So
Yeah,
one vote.
you got a second and a third.
That's good.
Very good. We'll get next, validation of off-cycle funding requests update. This is an information only item.
Yes, sir.
But very important. Go ahead, Mr.
Yes, this is
Parsons.
page 27 is the staff report. This is a callback to our October meeting where Finance Committee and TAC both recommended for the authority to formally direct the TAC to evaluate this off-cycle funding request by the city of Richmond for the Diamond District improvement project. Just to recap the actions that have taken place so far, the framework that we utilize is reflected in the italicized section of the staff report. There are 5 steps that are listed in the framework that CVTA should follow for off-cycle funding requests. The action by the authority on October 24th was to direct TAC to formally consider this request through the adopted process. So basically, what are these 5 steps that are contained in the framework? TAC had a lengthy discussion about this on Monday and took action to essentially streamline and move through up to step 4. So by that recommendation, it is a data recommendation. So staff is now moving forward at the direction of TAC to report back on December 8th on the eligibility of the project, the scoring and ranking, and how it would stack up against the round 4 funding scenario. So be able to get an idea of how this project would compare to the other projects that are in round 4 that we're considering. And essentially set the table for TAC discussion on December 8th, Finance Committee review on December 10th, and then potentially full authority action on the project at its next meeting on January 23rd, I believe. That is the next authority meeting, so that's where we would be established. This is an information item today, just to provide an update to Finance Committee, because there are no financial questions at this point. So we didn't think it was pertinent for Finance Committee to have to take any action in addition to what you did last month or in October. So I'd be happy to take any questions on process. I know that city staff is here and could certainly address any questions about the project itself.
Okay. No questions. We'll go on to the next item. Next item. It's interest income options.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Seems like all of our discussions are leading to the same point. This is the staff report is on page 28. The background is essentially that we receive tax revenues distributed 3 ways. While the regional funds are 35%, are awaiting project reimbursements for those committed projects. They are invested to earn additional interest income. We have just gone over the investment report, and we understand the market conditions in terms of rates. So what the Finance Committee has instructed staff to do was take a look at options for ways to apply interest income over time. And that is a memo that has been included on page 29, the last page of the packet. So I just wanted to step through these 5 options that we developed on the staff side. And obviously this is a discussion item. There is no action yet, but it's something that Finance Committee can consider. So the first option, which is really not an option, is to do nothing, status quo, leave the interest income as it is. And we'll continue to show it in the method that it's shown as available. We can retain it as a separate line item on monthly financial statements and continue investment in the pooled funds over time. Option 2 would be continued investment in the pooled funds, but allocated the interest income to the regional fund to be available for biannual regional application funding. So essentially make the available interest income something that can be folded into that 35% and applied to our every 2-year cycle of project application. So right now, if we're looking at, I don't remember what the number was, 13 million in available funds, that's a sizable chunk that could help fund probably an additional project or 2 in the regional window. This item, option 2, obviously this will be something of additional discussion in terms of the amount and frequency, like when would those interest income funds be absorbed into the regional fund for presentation purposes. But again, that's something that we can look at. Option 3, invest in CDs or other long-term options. It's currently not preferred due to current yields, but could be assessed over time as the market changes. Option 4, distribute directly to projects. This option would require an additional process for evaluation and selection, which at this time, we're not in support of, due to all the other processes that we're trying to consider. Further assessment of the project evaluation process may lead to this being a more viable option in the future. And then option 5, establish a project contingency line item that will be applicable for existing regional project commitments and could be utilized through a consensus process to help alleviate unforeseen escalations in project costs. This option, again, it's a safe option. It could help provide additional funds down the road for things like possibly off-cycle funding requests, or other, inflation needs or other types of issues that CVTA identifies over time. Those are 5 options. There may be additional ones,
Could
but
be.
this is where we are at this point.
And this was where I'd like to open up for discussion on this, see what everybody thinks is one of these good options. The one thing that we may not have mentioned, that that reserve, the cash reserve that we have, should be a floating number. It's a certain percentage of what we have.
I think
So-
it's capped at an amount.
Is it completely capped at an
I
amount?
believe it's currently.
Okay.
capped
Policy
at
said 18
There's
million.
18 million.
Yes.
It does not change.
It should change annually. We should
Okay.
be doing an assessment of the previous year's incomes.
Okay.
There's something in the financial policies that I believe in early summer, we should be assessing that and adjusting the working capital
Okay,
reserve amount.
So that could be a number 6
It could be,
option.
yes.
Okay, very good. Anybody else? Please, let me know what you think. With Mr. Parsons and Mr. Bishop.
I'll pick it up.
Go ahead.
And then smart people could talk after me. But I can align with number 2. I've often wondered in this climate, when you start to see these projects get towards the later life cycle, at least what we're seeing on all of our transportation projects, the deltas of what they really are astronomical. And I've often wondered how or if this body would have a role in those escalated costs. Or I don't know if we've ever said that it just falls back to locality. This was $5 million short of a project, we gotta come up with $5 million. Or if our goal is to figure out how to get these projects to fruition. So I personally see number 5 as pretty attractive.
Okay, okay. Very good.
I would agree with that. I feel like there's precedent given sort of how this money has been distributed already, right? I mean, look at what we did in June, it was exactly that, right? It was filling a shortfall.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
I agree with Neil. I think that if we've had projects that have already been submitted that could be underfunded, that establishing an account for that we could draw from, no similar to the 18 million that we have set up in the reserve account, to basically have an allocation for the opportunity for the consideration from the entire CVTA to say, look, we already, I don't know how much we've already allocated for Neil's project, but we'll pick one. We'll say we've already put $30 million into a project. And they come back and said, well, we're a couple million short. What can we do? As an example, you look at the Fall Line Trail. We approved the Fall Line Trail. After the first 2 years of the creation of the CVTA, we put $105 million, pretty close to that, into that project. And we've seen some of it come out of the ground already, but then when we got into the southern part of it, we've seen the overruns. And I think every single transportation project in the region is suffering the same issues. And so, provided that these funds can be set aside for that, I think it's something viably that we should look at, so that we don't have a project stall. God knows it takes long enough for these things to get done in the first place. And we don't want a project, it's a good project that we funded, to stall because the locality is run out of funds. So I think that's, you know, I think it's the intent of the CVTA when its creation was to help localities with these projects, these big projects as well. But, you know, what could be $100 million project for Richmond or Henrico or Chesterfield, even a couple $1 million for New Kent or Powhatan or some of the smaller jurisdictions makes a huge difference. And I think being able to do that is worthy of looking at.
I think all of our jurisdictions, you know, would share in that same type of sentiment. You know, whatever percentage we are, you know, a few dollars here and there, that we know if it goes over, we have at least some place that will listen to our request. You know, and I think CVTA does that very well. Davis, any comment?
Yeah, I would reiterate, Mr. Harold's, comments as well. Number 5 looks good. We're seeing this also at CTV. These projects do run over at times. And, luckily they've got, the ability to balance entry, a lot of things, make things happen and move money around on different projects so that things continue to move. It is paramount to keep them moving, not let them stall out. So, yeah, I would be inclined to look at number 5. The other thing I was questioning in my mind is there a model that's been done on the interest income reserve on a go forward basis? As we talk about the declining rate of interest,
Yes.
and then we juxtapose that to the larger base of monies that are being deployed into the investment accounts every month. So is there, and then going forward, as we look towards projects being funded, that's going to draw down off the big base. Is there a model that says, oh, this should continue and the rate's going to attenuate? We understand that, but the pot of money is going to get bigger, and so it's going to create more interest income. But as we move towards projects getting funded, it should draw down the base pool of assets. So is there a model out there that says we should be looking at this kind of monies so that we have a realistic expectation around the table about how much money is actually should be flowing into this? I think that would maybe be helpful for the committee or for the larger body at large. So just a thought there.
Ms. Shepherd, would you?
And I would lean on our partners in Chesterfield for that. Just given, as I mentioned, Planner VA really doesn't manage those large invested pools. We don't have access. I mean, we have access to the statements that come from our partners in Chesterfield, but we don't actually do the analysis and investment of those funds. So I would lean on our partners in Chesterfield to provide that kind of scenario planning, which I think actually makes a lot of sense. And
The whole thinking is we eventually want to get rid of this money. We want to spend this money on projects. Okay, so our goal is not to really have a lot to get interest on. But while it's there, might as well get as much interest on as we can.
There will always be some portion of
Yes.
encumbered but unexpended dollars, just
Mhm.
because like the fuel tax and sales and use tax is always gonna come in, and it won't be as big as it is right now, but I think the modeling that you're talking about is like finding that steady state and saying, okay, on average, we're gonna be able to count on X amount of interest.
Mr. Carroll.
Mr. Chair. Part of the project that Chet undertook recently on actually getting all of localities to put a realistic timeline in on how long it's going to take for projects to come out of the ground is part of what we needed to actually look into how the investment pool will actually work. And I'm not, it's been my experience since being on the CVTA that unfortunately transportation projects take a long time to come out of the ground. And so I do think, good, bad, or indifferent, that we will continue to see large balances.
Yeah.
Strictly because of how long it takes for a project to go through the approval process at a local level. not being mean to VDOT or anybody at the CTV, but how long it takes to get through that process. Before we can even cut the dollars loose. And so I agree with you. The ultimate goal is to have a zero balance.
yeah.
That we've spent the money as it's coming in and allocated
Should be our goal,
correctly.
yeah, but.
But knowing how long it takes
Mhm.
for these projects for the money to actually get allocated, I mean, to actually get spent. I think we're gonna have a lot of money in there for a while, and that's why when we asked for the CVTA to come up with a more realistic timeline on these projects, and when locality is gonna actually put requests in for the funds, so that our investment people, Rebecca Longacre's people, can actually look at the dollars and say, okay, we're not gonna need this for 6 months, we're not gonna need this for a year, we're not gonna need this for 18 months. We can take that money and put it into the best possible investment pool we can. To maximize that dollars, so we can come back and do what we were looking at in number 5 here to say, we can take those dollars and reinvest them back in the projects. And so I think the first step has been accomplished, which is what all the localities did by putting in those numbers. And I think that kind of speaks to what you were talking about on how that works. So we're working on it. So you're right, it was on us, and we had asked for that information. It's been provided by everybody, so we can be better at it.
Reverend Nelson?
I tend to lean toward option 5, like my colleague, but I am curious. You said staff recommends number 2. Is that what I see? Share why you think that again, I guess.
Yes, sir. I understand the attractiveness of number 5, and I could certainly be persuaded that way. The idea of staff recommending number 2 was probably our current mindset is trying to get regional projects funded, because we're in that round 4 project analysis, and we're seeing that there aren't enough funds to support all of the projects that have been applied for. So I think that was kind of a knee-jerk maybe reaction, is we know what the needs are right now, and trying to provide enough funding to support the projects that are currently out there. I will say, Mr. Chair, if I can, the idea behind number 5, the TAC, is a lot of smart people. And as part of that framework that was developed 5 years ago, we do have formulas included, looking out over 6 years to develop a balance entry. That I don't have the language in front of me, but I think a lot of the idea behind that balance entry every year is to support inflation and unforeseen project escalations. So if the finance committee wishes, staff can go back and look at number 5 and how that can work alongside the balance entry numbers to provide some additional cushion. I would like to, come up with some type of a formula or how to apply interest income funds over the 6 or 7 years. Right now, we're programmed out to 2031. So when are those needs going to be, and how can we make that work? So Reverend Nelson, I think 2 was a short-term solution. 5 is probably more of a long-term fix. So staff could get behind either one of those.
So there'll be a TAC meeting before another finance meeting, correct?
Correct, December 8th.
Okay. It'd be great for you to take that, how we have voiced our opinions of that. And maybe call interest income could be our regional projects discretionary funds. Basically, if what we're talking about is that, at our discretion, with proper procedures, regional projects can be funded from the interest in general.
What you just said would also be number 4, right? I guess because the discretionary fund, I think the difference between 4 and 5 is projects that have already been vetted versus.
Oh, that's correct.
New
I'm sorry,
regional
yes,
funds, right?
you are right, yes. Very good. Thank you, Mr. Parsons. Is there anybody from the finance committee that has any comments? Go. Around the room?
Like,
Yes.
question, Mr. Chair. Mr. Carroll brought up Fall Line Trail, and I was more curious, and we can take this offline if you prefer. I'm more curious, how this or the CVTA philosophically approached the adoption and funding of the Fall Line Trail? Like, what was the history of that? And was there a decision at some point that CVTA would like fully fund every part of that? Or is there sort of, we take it piece by piece and the localities figure it out?
So, Mr. Chair, go ahead. Take a shot at that since
Yeah.
Neil and I were the two were here and chat. You know, we were looking at after 2 years of not actually having approved a regional transportation list yet. We had encumbered 2 years of dollars in the fund, and there was a discussion about what could be our very first big regional project that we could take a look at, and the discussion ended up falling on the Fall Line Trail. Of course, it touched 5 out of the 9 jurisdictions, and so there was also an agreement that all the taxes that were paid in by the other jurisdictions that were not part of the Fall Line Trail would be reimbursed for those 2 years for their transportation projects. And pretty much that's what we did. And then later on, discussions came up about the Wayfinders projects. We came up with a solution for that to cover that. But it was really about trying to tackle a big regional project that touched, in this case, 5 of the 9 jurisdictions. And that's really what we settled on because of that, because there's been quite frankly, a regional push for this project for a long time, but there was not a funding mechanism. I think that when you talk about long-term funding I mean, a lot of it will fall on, at least in Chesterfield, probably some of it will fall on VDOT in long-term. You know, we know that Henrico and Richmond actually own their sections. And so that'll be a discussion for you all to have in the future about how, if there's any maintenance or funding that may need to come about for, you know, down the road when, for instance, a section of it needs to be repaved or fixed in that manner. And then there's a discussion as that future CVTA member as to you know, whether or not in future regional dollars they look at saying, okay, well, they have to address some of these issues. Right now, everything's gonna be nice, shiny and brand new, but we know that as it goes down the road, it's gonna need maintenance. Am I missing anything?
No, just, I think the intent was to fund the whole trail.
Okay.
So the scope was pretty well defined.
Yeah.
And I think just with we kind of realized early on to try to coming up with a regional scoring system, just 2 years in was gonna be pretty challenging, and for fairness, this seemed like a good thing to do, so everybody was a winner in that one.
So basically what we're saying, it's not, we didn't set a precedent by giving the 5.5 million last year or whatever that amount is the Wayfair, and that the precedent was set that we're gonna be paying for the Fall Line Trail. And so we don't expect them to come back to us every time they need $1.
Sure.
And that's, I can see the concern that.
Well, no, I'm actually where the question is coming from is I'm looking at pieces of the fault line in the city,
Richmond,
there's
yeah.
still big gaps, right? And so just because I wasn't around for the years of conversation that you all had, like, how much can we bank on the CVTA, you know, completing the construction of the pieces that are not yet funded?
So we're still in the same boat in Chesterfield.
Yeah.
There's a big section
Mhm.
that goes probably from Chester to Richmond line that we actually had to shift monies to put in the southern section because Design Build 2, which is we're getting ready to kick off, actually escalated in price, so we had to shift money. You know, there is the state actually did put funds in the budget for trails, and you know, we've been trying to push the General Assembly and our General Assembly partners. I think that, quite frankly, is someone we need to make sure we try and lean on to try and get funding to do the trail system funds to finish this. And then, you know, what I would say as far as modeling for long-term maintenance, I think we have to look at how the capital trail is being maintained and how that is funded and look for a similar model in you know, circumstances that might be available if it's possible. I mean, again, it's a little bit different for Enrico and Richmond because you all own your sections where our sections are gonna actually be maintained by VDOT.
I think, Mr. Parsons, correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like a couple years ago, we tackled that issue. Was the CVTA gonna be, I mean, 'cause I feel like we put out a memo saying that the CVTA was not gonna be doing majority of the maintenance, but I mean, some may be looked at in the future, but that's.
Well, I think it's right now, the model is local agreements with VDOT or other types of maintenance agreements. But I think two points, Mr. Mayor, the original $104.5 million commitment was also a timing issue. Because we were at a time where there was state funds that were available and CTV at the same time CVTA took action, also committed $42 million to the fall line. So it was a timing issue where there was a way to capitalize on multiple sources to give that first push. The other thing, directly to the city's question, is Henrico County over the past two regional funding cycles has applied for regional funds to support other segments. So that's absolutely another way. We weren't just, CVTA wasn't just acting on that first year.
Okay.
It's an ongoing thing where if the project performs, that's something that we can all get behind.
Yeah, okay. And I guess on that, is there any kind of coordinated legislative strategy that we need to think about? Heading into this and future GAs to continue funding it? And where does that conversation happen?
The conversation happened with our local legislators as part of each locality's legislative agenda.
Yeah.
Especially the ones that are touched by the fall line trip. We know that we're bringing it up to our people in the General Assembly.
Okay.
And then
We
again,
have
our
Delegate
two
Cousins
members here.
Yeah, Delegate Cousins is on the board, as well as Senator Hashmi for another month.
Right.
But we'll have representation on the board that we can probably get some advice.
How much of the Hashmi seat goes to the Richmond area representative?
The Senate would appoint the next representative.
Till the special election's held.
Yes.
And then when the special election's held, it's whoever wins it. I know that several people have announced they're running for that seat already.
So her seat is the seat that represents.
No, it would be, the Senate would take
The
action.
Senate will choose whoever.
Correct.
The Senate can appoint anybody to this.
That's right.
Period.
That's right.
Yeah, do we have a joint CVTA legislation action? Ideas that we should be able to present to our legislators that CVTA would be behind?
We do not,
Or just keep that,
we have typically not done that. We
Okay.
worked through the local advocacy.
Let the regions-
arms, so
with the jurisdictions who have.
yes, sir, through the jurisdiction. So that's
Very
already
good.
established there.
Any other committee members have any comments? Yes?
I just want to bring something up. We've had a couple conversations the last few months about projects not kicking off the ground. And I wonder if it'd be smart for us to ask staff to come back to us with, I know for the local funds, I believe in the statute, it says that the project funds need to be used in a certain amount of time. I wonder if there's something that we should be doing for the regional funds that has something similar so that we don't. I know we've talked about like how many times can a project, like if it's matching funds, how many times can they go for those matching funds in, say Smart Scale or one of the other funding mechanisms, but just to come back with how, is there value in us putting some time to book in some of these things to say, okay, if this doesn't get off the ground by this time, those funds come back. We may say no, we may say yes, but I don't know if we have a policy around that, but maybe something we'll ask staff to look into.
Well, it also helps out with the investing too.
Yeah,
We know.
absolutely.
Yeah, very good.
I don't disagree with that, except that the problem is the whole process of how long it takes to get a transportation project from start to finish.
But I agree with you, but I think this could be a data point to maybe help.
We
fix
don't
some of the
control the
problems.
state.
But I'm saying if we had, that, if at that point say, hey, we're gonna lose $200 million because we can't get these projects approved. Maybe something has to change in the state, and we could be a catalyst to that.
We could push, leverage.
We
is
have
something.
two people sit on this committee that are legislators that I agree with you.
Yeah.
If we talk with them and say, look, this is an issue, they can try and bring it forward. You know, I would be curious to find out what, if there's any standards that the Northern Virginia Transportation Authority is using for that, or Hampton Roads is using for that, and if they've run into that problem, or if they just let it look and say, look, it's, you know, is there a time frame for them or not? And I think that getting that information would be helpful.
Yeah, we could do it. Good, very good. Anything else for anybody? Okay, if I'm correct, the next meeting will be December 10th for the Finance Committee at 9 o'clock here in the boardroom. I believe there's a joint meeting with the CVTA, RPPO, Plan RVA on December 4th.
Sounds great.
Let's go with December 4th, and I think it's at least 8:30. Do I have any motions to adjourn?
Move.
So moved, second. All those in favor?